Without a doubt, we are living in some very, very challenging times with the murder a week ago, a little over a week ago, of Renee Good in Minneapolis by ICE agents, and then the murder this past week of another protester, Alex Preddy, by ICE agents, and of course, many other atrocities that didn't end in death, thank God, but still, nonetheless, children being detained and people, citizens being torn out of their homes in the below freezing temperatures of Minneapolis right now. Um, it's hard to watch the news, right? I've been wondering how to process it, what to do. Um, Seeing the clergy who gathered in Minneapolis to be a part of the protest and many being arrested was certainly inspiring to me. And part of me wishes that I could go there and join them, but I know physically I'm not able to right now, although it might come to something like that. But I'm very grateful for those who are there and who maybe are planning to go. We all want to be able to do something, right? Want to be able to do something. For those of us who are Christian, today we many of us heard the gospel reading from Mark about Jesus calling the disciples. I'll read it for you just so you know what I'm talking about. It's from the Gospel of Matthew, fourth chapter, verses 12 to 23. So when Jesus, after he had heard that John the Baptist had been arrested, Jesus went back to Galilee. And he left Nazareth and settled in Capernaum, a lakeside town near the territory of Zebulun and Naphtali. In this way, the prophecy of Isaiah was fulfilled. Land of Zebulun, land of Naphtali, the way to the sea on the far side of the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people who lived in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. Now, you might be remembering that we've just come through the Christmas season and now are in the season of Epiphany. And back in Advent, before Christmas, we talked about how the Christ coming into the world was the light of the world. And we lit candles in the darkness in order to think about that light coming into the world. And so we've gone through Christmas, and here he is. Jesus is here. And here he is announcing what his ministry is going to be. So here it continues. From that time on, Jesus began proclaiming the message: change your hearts and minds, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. As he was walking along the Sea of Galilee, he watched two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew, casting a net into the sea. They fished by trade. Jesus said, "Come, follow me, and I will make you fish for human beings." They immediately abandoned their nets and began to follow Jesus. Jesus walked along further and caught sight of a second pair of brothers, James and John, ben Zebedee. They too were in their boats, mending their nets with their father. Jesus called them, and immediately they abandoned both boat and father to follow him. I've read that text so many times, preached on it so many times about what it means to be called by Jesus to be a disciple. Because it wasn't just the 12 or however many there really were. We don't really know. Um, but we talk a lot about what it means to be a disciple because each one of us has a calling. If we claim to be a follower of Jesus, then each one of us has a call to um, to be a disciple. And what does that mean? Well, it means to follow the teachings of Jesus, right? So how do we do that? Especially when we are in the midst of really hard times. Things that I wish we had some control over. I wish I wish there was somebody who was going to ride in on a white horse and save us, but that's probably not going to happen. What it's going to mean is that we are the ones who must bring about change. How do we do that? Well, for some, in this situation that's going on in Minneapolis, we go to Minneapolis and we protest, and many people are doing that, and I give them great credit for maintaining their peaceful witness and their peaceful protest. I appreciated seeing a website that was calling for people to come to Minneapolis, but saying only do so if you know that you are able to regulate your emotions, that you can be non-reactive to the things that ICE will do. And that's very, very important because the fact that this has remained peaceful for so long is just such an amazing testament. And that doesn't mean that this is a purely Christian uh, thing, that anyone who creates peace in the world is doing what Jesus taught. Whether you call yourself a Christian or not, it doesn't matter. You're doing that work. So kudos to all of them. And my question then for myself and for all of us is what can we do to support them? What can we do if they're out there in really cold temperatures? Um, I did find a website that talks about how to support them. We can certainly send money to to support there are coffee shops and restaurants and places who are providing food and shelter and coffee and also food banks and churches, organizations that are helping with legal questions. Anyway, the website is Stand with Minnesota, standwithminnesota.com. I found that to be probably one of the most helpful sites that I saw. And so when I was looking for a place to um, donate to, that's where I made my decision. You'll see a whole list of places that you can choose of how to support them. Or if you have friends out there, ask them. Or if you have a relationship with churches out there, you can ask them too. But do something. That's the thing. We have to do something. And as followers of Jesus, put your name in there when Jesus says, follow me. Andrew and Peter and James and John and Susan and insert your name, follow me, and then figure out what that means in the reality of today's world, what it means to be a disciple. We have to think about our discipleship in terms of our world today. We never could afford to keep it in the realm of, oh, for an hour on Sunday morning in church, we might read this reading and think, oh, and the disciples were called, and isn't that great? Um, but really, I think now more, maybe, at least in my lifetime, more than ever, um, to think about the real implications of being a disciple in the real world on the front line of evil, really. It is Epiphany. We're still thinking about the Magi, those wise men who traveled to see Jesus and ran into evil, ran into Herod, King Herod, who tried to deceive them and get them to tell him where Jesus was so that Herod could go and kill him. Um, they didn't buy it, and they went back another way. So it is still that season of Epiphany when we often talk, or some people talk about not mixing religion and politics, but well, right there it is. King Herod, you couldn't get more political than that. Um, Being a vassal of the Roman Empire, that was what Jesus had to face in his time, the brutality of the Roman Empire. So it's nothing new. Being a disciple in the midst of hardship is nothing new, and not just our own personal hardships, but those of our community and our world. So as we think about those magi, those wise men, we think about Epiphany and Christ being revealed to us in this time. We we look for that guiding star as it guided them to guide us into the ways of discipleship that are most helpful in our time. And right now, there are a lot of places, right? A lot of places in this country, in this world, in our communities, in our families, a lot of places that need our peacemaking efforts. But today, at least for me, I can't stop thinking about Minneapolis. Um, and the other thing, to get in touch with your uh, Senate and House of Representatives, your people, your representatives, and let them know that you do not want any more funding given to ICE. We've got to stop it somehow. We've got to confront the evil as best we can. So contact your representatives, your senators, let them know we don't want this. And then do whatever you can to support those who are out there on the front line. If you can't, if you go yourself, you go with our prayers and our blessing. But whatever you do, do it. And even if you're not a Christian, do it because you're trying your best. I'm trying my best. We are trying our best to be followers of this one who always taught peace, nonviolence, peace, justice, inclusion for all. That's what we follow, and show the world what the love of Jesus really looks like. Okay? See you out there on the front lines.